What is greed? Of course, none of us are greedy. It's only the other fellow who's greedy. The world runs on individuals pursuing their separate interests.
Greed, for lack of a better word, is good.
Modern economics, neoclassical economics, the economic agent within all of that modelling and thinking is a selfish agent, right? It's someone who's a cost-benefit maximising, rational individual. Do you know anybody who's like that? I mean, that seems like a good definition of psychopathy in a way, the idea that someone is only selfish and they're only calculating. So the idea that we are rational calculators comes from a cut and paste job from physics at the beginning of the 20th century, and it is the basis not just of the theories that economists learn, but also the politics that kind of comes around that.
Milton Friedman is certainly the best-known proponent of the greed is good argument, but his contemporary, James McGill Buchanan, held a far darker view of human nature. His characterization of human motivation was enthusiastically embraced by the wealthiest libertarian families in America. Most of us have heard his version of human nature from the lips of the wealthy and from the lips of wealthy libertarians. Buchanan's view of human nature was distinctly dismal. Adam Smith saw human beings as self-interested and hungry for personal power and material comfort, but he also acknowledged social instincts like compassion and fairness. Buchanan, in contrast, insisted that people were primarily driven by venal self-interest. Crediting people with altruism or a desire to serve others was a, quote, romantic fantasy, unquote. Politicians and government workers were out for themselves, and so for that matter were teachers, doctors, and civil rights activists. They wanted to control others and wrest away their resources. Quote, each person seeks mastery over a world of slaves, he wrote in his 1975 book, The Limits of Liberty. The people who needed protection were property owners, and their rights could only be secured through constitutional limits to prevent the majority of voters from encroaching on them. An idea Buchanan lays out in works like Property as a Guarantor of Liberty. McLean observes that Buchanan saw society as a cutthroat realm of makers, constantly under siege by takers. His own language was often more stark, warning alleged prey of parasites and predators out to fleece them. Instead of refuting the conservative model of human nature, I thought it would be interesting to embrace their model and then work through what that would actually be like. How would a selfish, utility-maximizing social species function?
Nice night for a walk.
First, we could imagine ourselves as a person who spends every waking moment sizing up everything and everyone around ourselves, Terminator-like, for our personal gain. It would certainly make our morning visit to the coffee shop different. Going to a wedding could be quite interesting. You just imagine the experience of a selfish, utility-maximizing individual hitting up the buffet table. I think most of us would find the exercise exhausting and probably quite unpleasant, if not downright depressing.
Your clothes, your boots, and your
But let's
motorcycle.
continue to work through this. Let's suppose we really had a society of pure psychopathy. This would be a society where each and every individual sought to extract as much as they could from their neighbors while recognizing that everyone else was operating exactly the same way. Each person seeks mastery over a world of slaves. Let's stop a moment and consider what such a society would do when they saw that one or a handful amongst them had gained a significant economic advantage. Because we all know that the game is total domination. What would be the rational, cold-blooded calculation in this circumstance? The very first thing that a society of sociopaths would recognize is that wealth disparity is a threat to them. What other purpose does that wealth disparity serve but the prime directive to become a master in a world of slaves? Libertarians argue that the masses want to grab wealth for themselves because selfish, greedy, ruthless, unworthy species, but that isn't much of an argument when your assertion is that's the nature of the game. All is fair in love and war. The libertarian argument that the world is divided between makers and takers, entrepreneurs and parasites, makes no sense. It's irrelevant in a world where you argue that the central nature of human beings is venal self-interest.
It was early today.
The truth is that society requires an immense amount of cooperation and collaboration. You could not drive down the street in a vehicle without it. A truly psychopathic society would be an incredibly unstable one. It would be a world of eternal conflict to equalize any advantage, yet failure would be characterized by brutal tyranny. The conservative argument that wealth disparity is the product of merit doesn't hold water because they base their entire model of human nature on psychopathy. Psychopaths are not interested in merit. They are not interested in fairness. They are not driven by it. They are driven by a desire to dominate everything. Importantly, a society does not have to contain 100% psychopaths for this logic to govern it. A society that understands psychopaths walk amongst them requires vigilance against wealth disparity, because wealth disparity in the hands of such individuals would be dedicated to tyranny.